Welcome to the Moral Excellence in the Workplace workshops. Today we'll be speaking about the ownership in the workplace. First, I would like to review our three basic moral beliefs. The first is everyone has the ability and potential to be a contributing member of society. Everyone can own property without the fear of it being stolen. And the third is all people have a responsibility to care for their immediate environment, surroundings, and for the world around us. The reason why we focus on these three basic moral beliefs is that we can make every decision based on these three beliefs. So for example, this is one that I use on a regular basis. When the break room is messy and you're very aggravated because someone left the dish or the microwave completely filthy, because all people have a responsibility to care for their immediate environment, that's you who has that responsibility. So while it's not the popular belief, while it's not the most comfortable thing to do, we still have a right and a responsibility to take care of that mess. Also, I believe that by living out in example, others will follow our example, and therefore we will change that behavior over time. These three basic moral beliefs help build our character. It's our character or our foundation of ourselves that matters in the thick and thin of life. Our personality is more that nice smile you have, the nice handshake, the friendliness that you present. But at the end of the day, it's our character that shows through. So it's important to have these moral beliefs to guide us so that our character can become a strong, positive one. Now let's move on to today's lesson. In your workbooks, you can start at page 40. And while this is loading, so that you can all see what I am seeing, we are going to discuss mine, yours, and theirs. And what we are going to discuss today is the importance of respecting other people's property and also understanding the impact that stealing has, borrowing without permission, and also what it means when we steal companies' possessions. So, behaving morally in regards to the possessions and properties of others means recognizing that everyone owns things and values what they own. What one person values, another may not, but not valuing something does not give us the right to disrespect it. It is still necessary to respect the possessions of others, whether we value them or not, just as we would want our possessions respected. Did you know that you have rights concerning what belongs to you? This is called the rights of ownership. This means that you have authority to make decisions about what you own. You also have the right to enjoy what you own without fear that it can be stolen from you. It's important that all employees recognize the moral concept of ownership in the workplace by respecting the possessions of coworkers. Always ask for permission before you touch a coworker's personal property and accept his or her answer with a positive attitude. The company, agency, or organization that you work for also owns things. The very chair you are sitting on, the mop you use, the truck you drive, the pencils, the staplers, the phones, all belong to your employer. A company provides these items needed for the employees to use for the purpose of doing their jobs. The company has rights concerning these items and dictates who can use them and how they should be treated. Recognizing the importance of ownership in the work environment can lead to better interactions, trust, and concern. Everyone wants to feel that they can have confidence that others will respect them and their belongings. Moral behavior in regards to ownership is one way to build confidence and trust in the workplace. Now we are going to discuss how you can obtain things. There are legal and honest ways to obtain belongings, and there are only a few ways in which this can occur. On page 41, you can read, Did you know you have to obtain your belongings morally for them to be legally and honestly yours? For example, you can buy the things you need and want. You can be given things. You can receive them as gifts. You can inherit them. You can trade for things. And acquiring an item in any other means that it was not obtained legally and therefore it has been stolen. A moral person also recognizes that the rights of ownership are extended towards items that are lost. Items found at work still belong to the owner, and the owner is therefore entitled to have his property returned. We should never keep an item that we find at the job site or anywhere else for that matter. That old adage, finders keepers, losers weepers, is not displaying a moral attitude. Think about it. How would you feel if your belongings were lost and you knew someone had found them and did not return them to you? Have you ever experienced a time when your belongings were stolen, vandalized, or borrowed without your permission while at work? Situations like these can cause resentment, a lack of trust, and also reflects a lack of positive moral character in the workplace. Here is a real-life example. Ashley cashed her check. She put it in her money in her wallet. She placed her wallet in her bag and then hung her bag on the familiar hook in the employee locker room. Leaving the room, she pulled the door behind her, making sure the door was locked. At the end of her shift, Ashley returned to the employee's locker room to get her bag and other belongings. She opened her bag and noticed that her wallet was open. That's odd, she thought to herself. I thought I closed my wallet. As she checked her wallet, Ashley realized that her money was missing. Someone had stolen her entire paycheck. In fact, not just someone, but another employee. It could have been the very person she was working right next to. One of her co-workers had stolen from her. Why do you think Ashley was confident that her bag would be safe in the locker room? During the live presentation, people answered because the door was locked, because it's an employee locker room. And tell me, how do you think Ashley felt knowing that a coworker stole her money? Again, live recording results included mad, upset, betrayed, revengeful. And what would you do if you experienced a similar situation? The live audience said they would go to higher up, to management. If there were cameras in the locker room, they would ask to view those. And also some of them said that they would seek out who it was. And of course, this would lead to revenge, though. So when someone steals from another, the right of ownership is violated. We see Ashley's story as an extreme example with the theft of money. However, taking anything that belongs to another without asking, even if our intentions are only to borrow the item, is in fact a violation of the right of ownership. So think about this. If you think, well, I'm just going to borrow the stapler, but you have not asked, you are stealing. Bottom line is, we need to ask before we use something that is not rightfully ours. Now, what happens when you do ask and the person says no? It's very important that we respect people. Remember, our moral principle says that everyone has the right to contribute to society, and everyone has the right to own property without the fear of it being stolen. So that would indicate that we also have the right to say what is acceptable and what is not acceptable use of our items. Just because someone says no, we cannot use their things, does not mean that they're being difficult. And it also does not give us the right to use their things once they walk out of the room and then simply return them without them ever knowing. Morally, it's not right. And that's what makes you a better person and a better character, is by doing the right thing even when no one's looking. So here's another example. You bring in a soda and snack to work, you put them in the office refrigerator. And when it's your time to enjoy that snack and soda, someone else has already helped themselves to it. Of course, no one would admit to taking them, and you're left angry and snackless. Situations like this occur because people do not respect the rights of ownership and take advantage of others. Ownership goes both ways. Just as we want others to respect our property and to ask before touching or taking anything, however big or small, we must offer the same care and concerns to others. We can behave morally in regards to ownership by asking permission before touching or using someone's belongings, but asking alone is not enough. We must also accept the response, even if it is no. So today in class, I asked everyone, what rules do they have for their own belongings? And one shared that when his brother uses the computer, he asks that he not eat at the computer because he's a messy eater and leaves crumbs all over. And I could not agree more. If you're going to use my things, please bring them back clean. That is a major pet peeve of mine too. So I could quite relate to that individual. Other people had, simply return the items when you're done using them. Just common sense, you would think, but overall, this is a big deal in a lot of places of work. Now, in Southwest Wisconsin here, we're pretty fortunate that we don't have a lot of people that are stealing from us within the workplace. However, though, it can be an issue, and let it not be you who is doing the crime. Now, let's talk about the use of workplace items. This is another common problem, is when employees steal from the very company they work for. Workplace theft costs billions of dollars yearly. It's such an enormous problem that it's actually causing companies to go bankrupt. Did you know that 1/3 of all U.S. corporate bankruptcies are directly caused by employee theft? This clearly shows a lack of respect for the belongings of others, with little or no value placed on the consequences to coworkers or the company. For example, restaurants across our nation routinely have food items stolen. Department stores have various items stolen right off the delivery trucks, and stacks of papers, markers, pencils, and other items are stolen from offices worldwide. So an example here is I used to work in a bakery, and we would have boxes of crushed up candy bar in the freezer, and you would have to go get some to use for the brownies. And I know people snitched some of that candy while they were in the freezer, because that was the one place where there was no cameras to monitor if we were snitching food or not. So, and ultimately, while it's just a snitch here or there, it's still stealing. Now let's talk about the illegal use of equipment, materials, or supplies. This too is a form of stealing. Have you ever used a laptop for other than work-related items? Have you ever printed things for personal use rather than work-related? You're using valuable ink. You are using memory. You're using the equipment, and what if it breaks during that personal use of it? So, additionally, using business items for personal use is dishonest. Now, if you have permission to do that, that's a different thing. All workers must adhere to these rules in order to respect the rights of ownership. Another way in which we disrespect the rights of ownership is being careless with the property belonging to our employer. When we use tools and other property belonging to our employer for the purpose of doing our job, we must be careful with them as we are with our own. So, for example, if you have a laptop for work, you won't be slamming it around, because I don't think you would slam your own laptop around. Or if you have pens, you need to keep track of the pens so that not every month your company has to buy you new pens. So respecting the rights of ownership includes taking care of and using the possessions as instructed to avoid damaging or breaking them, even if they do not belong to us. Tools left lying around or misused and equipment not properly maintained are only some of the ways employees are careless with property. Carelessness and negligence result in financial loss and waste of time. Think about the employee who has to look for his tools before he can even start his job. What if that takes a half hour? That's a half hour away from the actual job. It's, and again, that is lost money. And what if he can't even find that equipment? Then he has to go out and he has to replace it. Another waste of money. When we misplace or misuse equipment, we can cause undue stress on coworkers, management, and ourselves. So again, think of how you would like to be treated, but also how that person would feel. A moral attitude in regards to the belongings of others means not damaging, destroying, or vandalizing another's property. Vandalizing means to purposely or willfully destroy anything that belongs to another. So let's stop and think. Go ahead and complete this exercise. Name a few of your personal belongings that you keep at your job. I keep a coffee mug. I also keep a water jug. I also keep a fork at my office, and I'm always disappointed when that fork is missing. Of course, I'm the only one to blame for that one because I forget to bring it back after I've taken it home to wash. But just think about that. What if a coworker borrowed your fork every day? You had to eat with your fingers. Such simple things, but yet those little things add up over time. What rules do you have regarding your belongings? My rule is simply return it when you're done. You may use whatever you'd like, just return it. Return it in the condition you found it, and please bring it back clean. And have you ever had anyone violate your rules regarding your belongings? How did you react? I get rather frustrated if something comes back to me unusable or in a dirty state. I get very upset about that. Now let's talk about a few items available for employee use in your workplace. The example here is the refrigerator, the printer, the computer, the phones. What rules have been established regarding these items? These are the rules that you want to adhere to. True positive character development begins with controlling our thoughts, which leads to feelings, which leads to moral actions, and then positive consequences. So again, just as we used stop last week to control our thoughts, we can also stop, think, consider options, choose the appropriate option, and proceed with the one that would lead to the right choice. That brings us back to our moral principles. So if you go to grab for that stapler that's not yours, that's sitting on someone else's desk, stop and think and ask, can I borrow this? And if they're not there to borrow, wait until they are there to borrow. So what does it all boil down to? Well, an immoral attitude towards the possessions owned by a company can result in higher expenses for the business, which means lower salary and wages, insubstantial raises, layoffs, and distrust between coworkers and management. Because this simple moral principle of ownership is ignored, crimes such as theft, burglaries, business corruption, and scandals are rampant in our society. An immoral attitude towards the belongings of others includes taking or borrowing something without permission, as well as willfully abusing or destroying items of others. Think about it. If you take someone's belongings without his permission, you haven't borrowed, you have stolen. Keep in mind that character is based on morality. Moral principles are what separate a positive character from a negative one. Having more principles like self-control will ensure that you make positive decisions which show respect to others, their possessions, and their rights of ownership. And ultimately, those positive decisions lead to a positive character, which at the end of the day is what always shows through. So this concludes our session for today. Kind of sweet and simple and short. Next week, this is just the preview. Ask more than just the 3-letter word. And this is one of my favorite chapters in this curriculum as well. So I look forward to seeing you all then, and have a great week. And also be thinking about when you can turn those negative thoughts into positive thoughts. We'll be reviewing that again next week. Thank you and have a great day.